All stranded passengers of Mahalaxmi Express evacuated successfully. The train was held up near Badlapur in Thane due to waterlogging on the track. Heavy rains continue to lash Mumbai. The Met Department predicts scattered heavy rainfall in several parts of Maharashtra today and tomorrow. The GST Council reduces tax rate for electric vehicles from 12 to 5%. The rate will be for EV charges also been cut from 18 to 5%. Approves exemption from GST for hiring of electric buses by local authorities. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman chairs the 36th GST Council meeting by video conference. Top Jaish terrorist Munna Lahori and his aide gunned down in Shopian. Munna Lahori hailed from Pakistan and was involved in a series of civilian killings in South Kashmir in Machil sector of Jammu and Kashmir. One jawan martyred as Pakistan violates the ceasefire again. And Satish Babu Sana is produced before the Special CBI court. The ED seeks his 14-day remand, and the ED also arrests Satish Babu Sana in connection with a money laundering probe against the businessman Moin Qureshi. Namaskar and welcome to the news. I'm Mark Lynn. Here's our top story. In Maharashtra, rescue teams have safely evacuated all passengers of the Maharashtra Express. The train had been held up near Badlapur in Thane district since last evening due to waterlogging on the tracks. It was carrying around 700 passengers. The NDRF, State Disaster Management, Railway Protection Force and Fire Brigade officials were pressed into service to rescue the stranded passengers. Relief material like food packets and other essentials were provided to the passengers. Rescue teams used boats to take the passengers out of the train and to shift them to safer places. The flood rescue teams from the Navy, including diving teams, were part of the rescue operations. The Western Naval Command was keeping a close watch on the situation and was in constant touch with the state administration. Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis also instructed the Chief Secretary of the state to personally monitor rescue operations. Union Minister of State for Home, Nityanand Rai, spoke to the Chief Minister and took stock of the situation. Railway Ministry has announced that the passengers of the Mahalaxmi Express will be taken to their destinations by a special train. The special train, with 19 coaches, will leave from Kalyan to Kolhapur with the passengers. And heavy rains continue to lash Mumbai and adjoining suburbs, with waterlogging in several areas affecting normal life. Mumbaikars have been witnessing heavy to very heavy rainfall accompanied by strong winds and lightning. This is since yesterday, leading to waterlogging and traffic congestion at several places. Non-stop rains in Mumbai, Navi Mumbai, Thane and other suburbs have led to flooding in residential areas. The Mumbai police requested commuters to avoid waterlogging areas, the areas which are waterlogged, and also to maintain distance from the sea. The BMC officials are also on alert and they have alerted locals not to step out unless necessary. Meanwhile, due to heavy rainfall compounded with overflowing Ullas River, resulting in waterlogging at Ambernath, 20 trains were terminated while 2 were cancelled. The Met Department has predicted scattered heavy rainfall in Raigad, Thane, Palghar and some parts of Ratnagiri, and extra heavy rainfall at isolated places across Maharashtra today and tomorrow. And Shishir Shellad now joins us with more on the situation. Well, Shishir, since we last spoke to you, now the train, at least all the passengers have been evacuated and they will be given a new train. But what's the situation with, like, in terms of the rain? I mean, is it just continuing to pound Mumbai and surrounding areas?
Well, absolutely, Mark. First of all, let me tell you that all the 700 passengers have been rescued from the train and they have been taken to the safer places now, the adjoining villages there. And from there, medical treatment is going on some of the patients. That's what we got to know, because there have been some pregnant ladies also on board. Some of the senior citizens were also traveling on board. And that's the reason the medical aid is right now giving you, though we haven't received any information regarding any injuries so far. But the precautionary step, the authorities, now the medical checkup is going on the patients here and all the rescued people there. Well, apart from that, around by say 6 or 5:30, some of the passengers now will be boarded to a new train. That train will go to Badlapur via Manmad. That's what the information we've got right now. And currently, those who want to travel to Mumbai, the extra buses have been deployed to the nearby areas so that people can travel via buses to the Mumbai as well. So that's what the information we've got from the spot here right now. Well, as far as the rain is concerned, you rightly said that the IMD has predicted heavy rainfall in the next 48 hours, and that's the reason heavy to very heavy rainfall is predicted in Mumbai also, adjoining areas like Palghar district, Thane district, Raigad district, Ratnagiri and the Sindhudurga district. These are the areas which are adjoining areas to the coastline, and that's the reason the IMD has predicted a very heavy rainfall at some places in this area. But as far as the preparation is concerned in this regard, we have we've got to know from the authorities that warning has been issued to the district level. They have been told that to be on standby for any untoward situation here, just like what we have seen today, a very well coordinated rescue operation where all the authorities with the state administration, the central forces, the Navy, NDRF swung into action, and we have seen a coordinated rescue operation which lasted actually, if you see, the NDRF team have just reached to the spot around 11:30 in the morning, and from then till 2 o'clock we have seen here that rescue operation was over with other officials also along with them. So obviously in just a couple of hours we have seen the rescue operation was over. So that's the reason this coordinated effort is required, and that's why what we've got to know is that the state government have put on alert all these the authorities here, be it army also, navy also, so that any untoward situation happen in these areas, they can rush to the spot and carry out the rescue operation.
Right. Also, Shishir, when we see such a lot of water logging, and of course Mumbai is used to it, how is the water removed? I mean, is it pumped out to different places? And getting the water out of the place is also a concern, isn't it? What's being done about that?
Well, absolutely, Mark. Well, Mumbai is an island city, Mark, and that's the reason, if Mumbai witness a heavy downpour here, there are some of the areas which witness a water logging, and that's what we see every time. Even this time around also, since yesterday, it was raining quite heavily till early morning, and that's the reason the low-lying areas of Mumbai, be it Kurla, Sion, Dadar, Hindmata, these are the areas which are quite low-lying areas. That's the reason we see a waterlogging situation in these areas. But the local authority, BMC, knows about it very well, and that's the reason this time around they have installed various pumping stations to all these places which are the low-lying areas. And that's the reason during the heavy downpour also we see that water logged there for a couple of hours, but eventually after a couple of hours we see that the water logging, the water submerged into nearby nalas here, and with the help of pumping station, all the waters that have been stuck in these areas have been tracked to the other different places here. So that's what the authority have already made arrangements in the Mumbai also and adjoining areas also. But in spite of that, this is not just enough efforts. As I told you, that BMC officials around the clock is working. As soon as they got any stress call from any part of the city, at the same time NDRF is also put on hold, so that if it required, the NDRF team can rush to the spot.
Yes, also, and being on alert, not only because of water logging and people getting affected because of the flooding, also because perhaps people will have to evacuate buildings which look like in a dilapidated condition, or which are likely to be affected by excessive rain. These are also situations that are of concern, isn't it, in the city?
Absolutely, absolutely, Mark. Absolutely, Mark. You rightly said here in Mumbai, basically, especially in South Mumbai, if you look at the entire area here, some of the buildings who are more than 100 years old. And that's the reason, as per the standing operating procedure of the BMC issued notice to these buildings. Those are actually dilapidated conditions, a dangerous structure. BMC officials go to the buildings here, put the notice here, and tell the person who's staying there that this is a dangerous building and you should evacuate it. Obviously, it's the BMC work doesn't stop here. They also give them alternatives to stay. They tell them to go to the transit camp, to the nearby transit camp. They can shift to the nearby transit camp here. That's what the official does here. But in spite of that, most of the buildings in the Mumbai actually are more than 100 years old, and that's the reason, that's what the major concern for the BMC authorities also, and for the rescue people also, because just a couple of weeks back you must have heard one of the building collapse at the Dongri region. Well, to reach to that spot is quite a difficult task for the rescuers, and that's the reason in Mumbai, basically in South Mumbai and in North Mumbai also, these are the areas that Mumbai, especially the BMC, have notified and have also issued notice to these dangerous and dilapidated structures.
We'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Shishir, for joining us with those updates. Moving on to our next story then, the high-powered GST Council today decided to reduce the tax rate on electric vehicles to 5% from the existing 12%. The new rate will be effective from August 1. The council also slashed the goods and services tax on EV chargers from 18% to 5%. The 36th meeting of the council was chaired by the Union Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman via video conferencing. Minister of State for Finance Anurag Thakur was also present during the meeting. The council also approved GST exemption for hiring of electric buses by local authorities. In a major success for the security forces in their anti-terror campaign, a top Jaish terrorist was gunned down in South Kashmir today. The terrorist was identified as Munna Lahori and he hailed from Pakistan. He was eliminated with his local associate in Shopian after a night-long operation. The slain terrorist was responsible for the partial car blast attack on the security force convoy in Banihal in March this year. He was also responsible for a fatal car blast on an army vehicle at Arihal in Pulwama in June. In a tweet, the Jammu and Kashmir police said that Munna Lahori had an expertise in aide making and was responsible for a series of civilian killings in South Kashmir region. It said that JEM had also used him for recruiting terrorists. Meanwhile, an army jawan was martyred in Machil sector of North Kashmir's Kupwara district when Pakistani troops resorted to unprovoked firing. Defense sources said that the Pakistani forces attacked the army's posts in Machil sector in the morning, leading to injuries to one soldier. The critically injured soldier later succumbed at hospital. The Indian side responded in a befitting manner to the ceasefire violation. The Enforcement Directorate today produced the businessman Satish Babu Sana before a special CBI court in New Delhi. The ED has sought 14 days remand of Satish Babu, who was arrested on Friday, in connection with the Moin Qureshi money laundering case. The arrest was made under provisions of the Money Laundering Act, the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, and also the ED has registered a criminal case under the anti-money laundering law against Qureshi in 2017 for alleged corruption in connivance with government officials. It was Babu on whose complaint the Central Bureau of Investigation had registered a criminal FIR on charges of corruption against its former senior officials, Rakesh Asthana and Alok Varma. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will share his thoughts with the people in the country and abroad in his radio program Mann Ki Baat on All India Radio tomorrow at 11 a.m. The Prime Minister has been speaking on various important issues through the monthly program, which will be aired on Sunday, and it's aired every month, on the last Sunday of every month. Vice President M Venkaiah Naidu today conferred the first democracy awards instituted by the State Election Commission of Maharashtra. The Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis was present at the award ceremony in Mumbai. The Vice President said that calling India our mother shows the importance we give to women in our country. He also asserted that women should get reservation in Parliament as they are 50% of the population. He congratulated Maharashtra government for granting 50% reservation to women in local bodies.
And even the country's name also, we call it as Bharata Mata. We don't call Bharata Pita. We call Mother India. We don't call Father India. Why? Because that's the importance given to women. They are 50% of the population. That's why even you look at the rivers, Godavari, Narmada, Tapati, Mahendra Tanaya, Kaveri, Krishna, all names are after women only. That is the importance our civilization is given. मैं चाहता हूँ आने वाले दिनों में स्थानीय ये तो इकाइयों में तो हो गया, विधानसभा और संसद में भी महिलाओं के लिए आरक्षण होना बहुत जरूरी है.
The Maharashtra Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis highlighted the importance of one nation, one election, an issue talked about by the Prime Minister. And he said that different parts of Maharashtra go into code of conduct for around 200 days, which not only disturbs the administration, it hinders the process of development.
उस समिति ने जो रिपोर्ट दिया, उस रिपोर्ट में महाराष्ट्र में ये ध्यान में आया कि एक साल में 250 दिन, around 250 days, there was a code of conduct in some or other parts of the state. तो अगर 365 दिनों में से 250 दिनों तक हम कोड ऑफ कंडक्ट रखेंगे, it may not be pan Maharashtra, it may be in some district or other, but it affects the entire administration, it affects the entire process of development.
The Central Reserve Police Force celebrated its 81st Raising Day today. On the occasion, the Minister of State for Home Affairs, Nityanand Rai, paid floral tributes to the martyrs of the force at the National Police Memorial in Chanakyapuri, New Delhi. Addressing the gathering, the Minister said that bravery of CRPF personnel is unmatched and they are capable of dealing with any kind of untoward situation. He added that with the efforts of CRPF, the scourge of terrorism will be eliminated from Jammu and Kashmir.
जम्मू और कश्मीर में पाकिस्तान प्रायोजित आतंकवाद का मुकाबला बड़ी बहादुरी से करते हैं और यही परिणाम है कि आप के परिश्रम की प्रकाष्ठा ने जम्मू और कश्मीर से आतंकवाद के फन को कुचल दिया है और आगे आने वाले कुछ ही दिनों में, कुछ ही समय के बाद आप सबकी बहादुरी के बल पर जम्मू और कश्मीर में पाकिस्तान परस्त आतंकवादियों का सफाया कर दिया जाएगा। पूरे देश को विश्वास है और केंद्र की सरकार को विश्वास है।
The Director General of the CRPF, Rajiv Rai Bhatnagar, remembered the CRPF jawans martyred in the line of duty and he hailed their bravery. He added that in order to provide assistance to the families of the martyrs on a real-time basis, a Veer Parivar app was launched by the President of India in April this year.
राष्ट्र की सेवा में अभी तक सीआरपीएफ के 2195 बहादुर जवानों और अधिकारियों ने अपने प्राणों की आहुति दी है। मैं उन सभी शहीदों को भावभीनी श्रद्धांजलि अर्पित करता हूँ। शहीदों के परिजन हमारे पुलिस बल परिवारों के अभिन्न अंग हैं और उनकी समस्याओं के समाधान के लिए माननीय राष्ट्रपति महोदय द्वारा सीआरपीएफ वीर परिवार नामक मोबाइल ऐप का शुभारंभ अभी किया गया था, जिससे कि हम शहीदों के आश्रितों के साथ लगातार जुड़े रहते हुए सुलभता से आवश्यक सूचनाओं का आदान प्रदान कर रहे हैं।
The Union Minister of State for Home Affairs, G. Kishan Reddy, also paid homage to the Martyrs Memorial at the CRPF Group's Centre, Chandrayana Gutta, in Hyderabad. India reiterated its focus on counter-terrorism and reformed multilateralism at the BRICS Foreign Ministers meet in Rio de Janeiro. Representing India at the meet, General V.K. Singh called upon BRICS to take action against all forms of terror supporting acts. And India also raised the issue of reforms of the multilateral bodies, specifically the UNSC. Both these issues also found a place in the joint media statement at the end of the meet at Rio.
A great amount of work has been done in BRICS where counter-terrorism is concerned, and especially by Brazil in the last almost a year of its presidency. And terrorism is one issue which concerns everybody in the world. So we emphasize that. We also emphasize that restructuring of the United Nations as such, various organs, and to bring it in sync with the realities of the world today in terms of representations, in terms of how various regions who remain unrepresented as part of the Security Council structure. So we said that the BRICS needs to take this issue more positively.
India and Brazil also held bilateral talks on the sidelines of the meet and discussed a range of issues, including cooperation in science and technology and architecture.
During our bilateral meeting with the foreign minister, we also built up on this in terms of relationship between Brazil and India, how science and technology needs to be taken forward, how agricultural cooperation needs to be taken forward, how both India and Brazil can benefit from it. And we exchange views on how things are today in our neighborhood and in Brazil's neighborhood.
And the Brazilian foreign minister commended India for raising the issue of disaster-resilient infrastructure at the BRICS forum.
We want to discuss more in depth our respective views of any international issues of concern to us, which is basically all, because both Brazil and India have a global presence. We want to go more in depth about security issues, about how we see the Middle East, how we see the question of Latin America and South America, multilateral trading system, WTO, reform of the WTO. We want to touch a little bit in all of those issues where both Brazil and India are key players.
The US President Donald Trump on Friday vowed substantial retaliation against France for attacks hitting US tech companies, accusing his counterpart Emmanuel Macron of foolishness and issuing a veiled threat to impose tariffs on French wine. Well, the US President had voiced his anger in a tweet in response to the French plans to tax multinational firms like Google, Apple, Facebook and Amazon. The French authorities argue that the firms pay little or no tax, corporate tax, in countries where they are not based. The Trump administration has said that the tax unfairly targets the US tech giants. Meanwhile, France said that it will go ahead with a digital tax. The French economy minister said that universal taxation of digital activities is a challenge for France. He further added that France wants to reach an agreement within the G7 and the OECD. In the meantime, France will implement its national decisions. And 8 people were killed and dozens injured when a series of earthquakes struck islands in the far northern Philippines early today, toppling historic buildings and sending terrified locals fleeing their homes. The tremors hit the province of Batanes, which is a group of sparsely populated islets north of the nation's largest Luzon island, tearing deep cracks in roads and forcing the evacuation of a hospital. Authorities said that some of the dead, including 2 babies under a year-old, were crushed by the walls of their own homes. Many people were still asleep when the first tremor struck in the early hours. According to the U.S. Geological Survey, the biggest of the quakes, of magnitude 5.4 and 5.9, struck within hours of each other. The Union Health Minister, Dr. Harshvardhan, today visited the Safdarjung Hospital in New Delhi. He will inaugurate the special OPD for old persons, which will be functional every Sunday. The doctors of the OPD will treat many diseases, the main ones concerning old persons, in fact. And the minister inspected the new emergency department and super specialty block and held a meeting with the concerned officials too. Dr. Harshvardhan will also launch several health facilities. Dr. Harshvardhan will hold a significant meeting with the heads of new AIIMS at Nirman Bhavan. Research on reasons for various diseases and ways to prevent them, besides other issues, will be discussed during the meeting. And that's all we have in this bulletin. Thank you very much for being with us. Namaskar.